Another garden update. Everything's looking good. Growing like a weed, as they say. So tomatoes are just bushing out, man. Pretty soon we're gonna be popping, and even these little buggers are catching up, which is nice. So, just trying to document the growth. The okra, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it be, but it's just kind of a sad state. I did plant a gladiolus right here, so we'll see what happens with that one. Otherwise, tomatoes are looking great, so just keeping them pruned, making them stems thick, and trying to keep all the suckers off. At this point, it's just turning into a lot of work, to keep the plants pruned up. I don't really want to let them go too long because it just will turn into a nightmare. If I had two plants in here, it'd be one thing, because then the middle ones there wouldn't be middle ones. But the way I got them planted, and the bigger they get, the harder it's getting, and more time, which is something right now I'm kind of limited on. But anyway, there they are. My little gladiolus bed here, it looks like some of the bulbs aren't coming up as I would expect. I mean, God, I planted so many of them, and then this is all that's coming up. I think I might need to replant, which is fine because I've got tons left over. I got a really good deal on these bulbs, so I'll just stick some more in there, see what happens. And the peppers are just really looking good. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to have the most peppers I've ever grown this year because of my pruning method, which I should have been doing all these years, growing peppers, but I really had no idea. I just let them grow. But when you top them and then they bush out and get extra stalks or extra, side growth, and you can multiply your pepper production pretty good. So I did finally get that Amazon shipment. It's a BT. It's like Bacillus thuringiensis or something like that. It's just a bacteria that you spray. You mix with water, you spray it, and once the caterpillars or any soft-bodied insects that are pests eat it, it like shuts their stomach off. So you have to apply it, they have to consume it, and then within days they basically starve to death after that. So I applied it. I'm having some issues with my eggplant, with something there eating them, which I'm hoping to cure. It's not so bad right now with the eggplant, but I definitely want to stop it before, it causes too much damage. And these couple little tomatoes here. Yeah, actually, I think it was, oh no, it's in the other garden bed. I had some tomato damage. And I sprayed everything. I sprayed the peppers, the eggplant, and the tomatoes, the basil, and the kale, all the brassicas. And, which I'll show you here because we'll get to a lot of the damage there. But look at this cantaloupe. For a plant that I had really no expectation of it doing well. It just kind of baffles me why this one is doing so good where, some of these other ones that were planted simultaneously aren't. Maybe it's the isolation of it. which, you know, would make sense. It's getting more sun than, say, this one or this one. It's kind of isolated in there. But, I mean, I'll have cantaloupes. They might not reach maturity, but I'll have them. And all my squash and zucchini, if you look here, you know, here's I think that's going to be an acorn squash, which is nice. I've got a lot of flowers for my zucchini and spaghetti squash. This is a spaghetti squash here. Oh, sorry, right there. So you see the flower there growing on the end, that's the female. This has to be pollinated by a male flower, otherwise that's going to die. And I noticed that, you know, all these are basically female flowers that are coming up. And I noticed that I do have some, like right here is a male. You can see there's no fruit on the end of it, it's just a long stem. So I shouldn't have too much blossom end rot. I think one like this, right here, if you see this one, how this bloom is starting to die. I don't know if that got pollinated by a male or not, but the chances are pretty low. I think that most of these first ones are gonna just succumb to that blossom end rot. This one here too, you look at the size of it and you think, oh sweet. Well, look at the blossom is starting to fall off. And we'll see what that one's, if it's going to keep growing or if that's the end of it and then it'll just die. It's kind of sad to see all of them just die, but you know, when you got nothing but female flowers, that's just how it goes. And I mean, I must have had a dozen or 2 dozen, somewhere in that range, females without any males anywhere. But now that I got male flowers, you know, I'm expecting a bumper crop. So that's that. And I'd say this is kind of like my main garden bed. You know, it's just really doing good. My basil was a little bit behind and now it's looking good. The lettuce, I just keep harvesting it over and over again, and it just keeps coming back over and over again. That M.I. Gardener, you know, kind of talked about this high density gardening technique, especially with lettuces, and it's worked out really good for me. I was doing that already, just because of the nature of the way I plant. But, you know, normally I'd just rip the lettuce out. I didn't really realize you just snip it, you know, with a couple inches from the base. If you just snip it a couple inches from the base there, it'll just come right back. And it doesn't bolt and doesn't get bitter. So you basically have lettuce the entire time, and lettuce will be good, you know, into the cold, at least within reason. Spinach is almost to the point where it's going to have to all be ripped out, because it's just, unless someone knows of some other method to keep the spinach from just shooting up like a rocket, and then the leaves get really small and they taste like swamp grass. Here's this little herb patch, and I think I'd mentioned it was supposed to have rosemary, dill, cilantro, basil, but all that's come up is basil and dill. So just kind of goes to show you that seeds don't last forever. So anyway, here's the kale, and I really haven't eaten any of this because it's just so destroyed. I mean, I know once you wash it off and everything, it's fine, but I just am not really, I don't really feel good, you know, eating all these. And you can tell here, look at, there's, you know, these caterpillars all over. So the application of this BT that I got is going to be like this ongoing process, because if you look at these, they're not eating right now. They're just stuck in a little web, and they have to actually eat the, and this might be what they do during the day, I'm not exactly sure. But once they eat the stuff, then they'll die. So they have to eat it. So I'll be applying it, and hopefully that resolves my issue. But I think for this kale, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. It takes up so much space here too for something I'm not using. I might as well rip this out and just plant radishes or something. But the beets and the carrots are really growing. You know, I've been looking online to try to figure out, you know, hey, is this planting of this many carrots, you know, is it going to be detrimental to my harvest? Because they're really, you know, they're really packed in there. And, you know, some people will say, oh, they'll all be stunted, but I mean, I've never had a problem with carrots this way. And it actually increases, yeah, they might look retarded or whatever, but I chop them up and freeze them anyway, so I ain't too worried about it. And my supposed bush beans are actually pole beans, and they're just growing like crazy. Thinking about getting some other kind of trellis over here. We'll have to see what I have time for. But yeah, these are looking good. I know this is getting long, and I'm just going to throw this in, but my mushroom garden is still the same. No mushrooms right now. If there was, I'd just jump to that right away, but that's it. Happy little mushroom totems. The corn, man, I'm hopeful that I might get an ear of corn that's fully matured this year. I mean, this stuff is like hip high, at least. Some of it anyway, some of it's not, but it's looking good. I think that I planted it a little too close. I was expecting to see some more defined rows, but as it just gets bigger, it just looks like a big mosh. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. It's looking good, so keep growing. These little star flowers are growing as expected, which is great. They're going to be perfect. And some marigolds growing out of control. More of my mom's marigolds that she got from a friend and sent me generously. Thank you. Oh yeah, I wanted to show this guy. Look at this thing, man. What is that? That thing is awesome. I mean, it's just incredible. I don't know what he is, but he seems like the devil himself. I think that's the one laying eggs on my, I don't know if that's one of them loopers or what, but anyway, this one looks so cool. And I know this video is getting long, but I kind of wanted to show some of this damage, you know, on my, you know, cabbage. Look at even all the way down to the head. It's eaten up. And this is what I don't like, man. This is crazy. So it stunts the growth of the plant, and then you get a horrible end product. And it's like, you know, I know it's not a lot of work to grow these plants. You just basically water them, and then that's it, right? Well, even that effort goes to naught because it's just destroyed. Even all the way down to, I mean, I think is this a cabbage or broccoli or something? I don't know, but let's see, which one is this? I had little stakes put up. Can't even see. Well, anyway, I mean, just look at the devastation. Look at these little leaves. They're just rocked. And I think what's been a week since I posted my last video, and they've just been pummeled, man. It's like really irritating. But I got the stuff. I got plenty of it for the season, and I'm just going to keep spraying it. Eventually, I'll break the cycle. And cucumbers are really doing good. You know, they were kind of yellowing. Some of these leaves are, you know, showing some issues here with but what I did is I got some Epsom salt and fertilized again with some 10-10-10, and they seem to be really coming back. In fact, they've got a nice growth spurt, and I've got all these cucumbers. I was thinking about hand pollinating, but there's plenty of male flowers, you know, right adjacent to the female. So I mean, unless all the bees are gone, and I haven't really seen a whole lot of bees, just these annoying wasps and stuff, but I'm pretty sure they're getting pollinated. So I don't know if I'm going to hand pollinate these or not, but boom. And these are just climbing nice. Look at this one's all wound around. These ones are kind of clumped together, but I'll have to figure out something to trellis this far one. But yeah, these are going to be great. I mean, what is it? What's the date? July 7th. So we've got a good June, July, August. I mean, beginning of September, middle of September, it's probably going to start dropping really low at night. So I mean, I got a month and a half. These are probably going to be decent size by then. I should get a good few cucumbers. Anyway, so here's the peas, and you know, I got a lot of peas already, and we've been munching on them. You know, when I redid this garden bed for this year, you know, it was 2 separate ones. I didn't really add any soil, because I did get a couple big loads of compost this year for my front garden beds that I added. And I don't know, because I planted way more peas than I ever have, and you know, it's still, so this should be just exploding with pea plants, but for some reason this is all that came up. So I don't know. I think well, my plan is next year is to actually make this into a garden bed like over here, just instead of just using these felled trees that I found in the back of the woods. And so that's the plan for next year. But man, some of these onions are already bulbing out good sized, and looks like I'm gonna have to weed again. The tragedy of gardening. Bad plants grow. Well, I know this video is getting long. I'm gonna end it here. Goodbye.